Okay. Okay, let me continue. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's just two of us here.
Oh, sorry, I need to admit. Two of us, there are others. There should be other people. There are about 12 of us here. Okay. So I'm continuing from here. So when you can you all hear me? Every other person.
I can hear you from my end.
Okay. Okay. So when you get to this interface, you must have installed any of this app, whether you want to use Google Authenticator, which is what I use, is easy, right? Or Dual Mobile or any other this thing Authenticator app or what is it Microsoft what do they call it? Microsoft Authenticator also. So you can decide which one you want to use, right? So once you have that installed, you can also see the compatible application list here. So you to find out which one is compatible, maybe for your phone, basically. So you can check from the list here, right? So once you check that, you open the app, right? You show this code. Yeah, once you open the app, sign up and all that on the app, you open this code, right? Once you open it, you scan this code from the app, the Authenticator app. Once you scan it, just follow the prompt. It's easy, very, very easy, right? So you scan the app, or you can use the secrets alternatively. You can use the secrets alternatively. So it's very, very easy, right? Just download the app, install the app, come to this interface, click on security credentials, then set up MFA, select put the device name, right? Put device name, then go to the next one and do check out click on show Q the back this code, right? This thing to scan it, right? The QR code. Then once that is done, you just follow the prompt on your app. Follow the prompts on the app. So once that is done, you can input put your MFA code name here, code 1 and 2 that you have. It will show you on the app. This is part of the setup. You see the code, right? The app will show you code 1, you put the code 1, code 2, you put the code 2, and add the once you click on that, that's all, right? So once you finish setting up, you log out from this account, you log out totally, right? You log out totally and try logging in back again. So if you're using your root user, you put in your email, put in your password, you will see that it will ask you for the MFA code. You just go to the app. The app recycle codes every 10 seconds, right? Every 10 seconds. So you must be fast when you choose any code. It will show you the time itself for each code. So whether 10 seconds, it will show you the time or the scale. It will show you the minutes you have or the seconds you have to use that code before it's cycled, right? So that is that here. Going back. So I'm not doing any other thing here. So my own code is called virtual. My own mobile device type is called virtual, right? So certification is not application. It's just once that is done, you don't need to do anything here. You come here, you see the device, this thing, assign device here. Once that is done, just go out, leave this place. So now let's go to EC2. This is where you start this is where you start your learning. You start with EC2. So what is EC2? EC2 is a cloud compute or cloud computer or cloud computing resource, right? Used for what? Used for, it's just like a server, your physical server. If any of you have heard anything called server before, yeah, think of EC2 as your physical server. Now it is on virtual, on cloud, right? With more capabilities, right, than the physical server, right? Called EC2. Your EC2, you have a lot of resources, right, for your EC2 to spin up your EC2, to launch EC2, to power on, let me use that word, to provision EC2 a server, right? These are most of the resources you will need when necessary, right? These are the resources you will use. So this is EC2 dashboard. What you're seeing here is EC2 dashboard. Instance running is, if you have instance running here, the elastic IP is your dedicated IP from maybe you bought AWS assigned to you, you want to use it for a specific project or something. Then load balancer. Load balancer, will come to this. To explain this will take us a little time, right? You guys that doesn't know anything about networking and all that, we need to understand some basic.
Sorry, Precious, please, sorry to cut you. Are you still sharing your screen? Because I can't see anything. I don't know if it's just me.
Really?
It's possible. I can see it.
Oh, really? Maybe I should just.
Okay, just maybe rejoin. Okay, so the snapshot is like a backup, right? Snapshot is like a backup. All these things, we will go through it, right? Auto scaling, right? It's just like availability, right? Availability, this thing, resource. When you say, okay, auto scaling, I want my server to auto scale when there's much demand. Maybe I have I'm using one server, right, to deploy and to host my application, right? Then I'm saying when there's a demand, maybe like it's a mall application online, like Jumia, for instance, and maybe there's a peak time and there's much demand. There are customers accessing my application, maybe like 1,000 people accessing my applications, and you know that server will not be able to carry that 1,000 people. You can set up auto scaling this thing to auto scale your server, right? It will auto scale, maybe based on what you configured, auto scale the server, right? When there is so much so demands, right? Auto scale it by horizontally, to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 10, auto scale it. And you can also set the auto scale for your servers. Okay, auto scale 2 servers, or use these 2 servers, predefined 2 servers. These 2 servers I've set up, then share the workload between these 2 servers. That is the work of auto scaling also. Then instances is where you see both your stopped instance or your running instance inside there. So volumes is storage. Then placement group is where you have your groups of resources and all that. Dedicated host, you have a dedicated server host or resources. You see it here. Your key pairs is what you use to sign in to remote connect into your cloud system, your cloud server. I'm going to use that word, cloud server. Key pairs is what you use like a key, like a password, or like a token. Only you must have. Nobody else should have it. If not, somebody else can log into your instance. Once they have this key and they know your public IP that is currently on, they'll use it to log into your instance and do anything, right? So this must be known to you only, your security pair. We will come to that as we try to launch instance. So a security group is a firewall setup, right? This is where you configure your inbounds and outbounds rules, right? Those are firewalls, right? So that is that. Why yes, you see your regions here, any scheduled events in your regions, right? This is zones. Yeah, I have about five, I have 5 zones, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zones, right? This is my zones. I have 6 zones, right? So these are defaults. I did not configure this came by default.
What
Right.
are zones?
So zones are like so let me admit these people. So zones are just like let's say local government area, or let's say you're in which area can I use? Okay, let's say Lagos, for example. Lagos is my US. Let me say Lagos, or let me say Nigeria, for example, is my US, right? Think of this US as Nigeria, you understand? Then think of zones. Think of Lagos, Ibadan as zones. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You have Nigeria as your location, your region. Then think of Lagos, Ibadan, states, those states as your zones, availability zones, meaning that you can configure, you can say, okay, my application should be available, right, for people to access it from these so zones. It should be available in these zones. My application to be available in these zones, right? This also help for what they call what word should I use now? Non-technical word. Let me say high availability. Let's use that word. High availability, right? Is this okay? So these are those like setting up high availabilities for your applications, so you configure zones, So we will get to these as well as we progress, you understand? So hope you
All right. Yeah, I got the context.
okay. So so anybody with question? Any question? Any question? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, no question. All right. So this is the dashboard which I've explained, right? So this left panel here you're seeing, this left side you're seeing here, this scroll you're seeing here, these are resources for your EC2 which I've explained already. So right now, the only way you can learn most of these things is by what? Practicing, right? So I've explained the major things here, like the key pairs, the security group, which you'll be making use of when you launch your instance, right? Then I've explained volumes, which is storage, right? Snapshots, like a backup, your backup lifecycle manager. That is where you manage your volumes of snapshots and all that, right? So elastic IPs, I've explained, right? Network interface. So this one, you get to understand this in your network. Maybe.
Sorry. Can you explain the elastic IPs again? Seems I wasn't on the call when you did that.
So elastic IPs are IPs that you tell AWS, give me IP that I need to use for my server. I don't want that IP or to use for whatever networking this thing you're doing. I don't want that IP to change. There's public there's public IP AWS will always assign to you, which you will see when we start provisioning a server. You say public IP. That public IP, whenever you stop your instance, not even terminate, once terminate is gone. Once you stop your server, that you say, okay, tomorrow I'm still going to use that server. You come into your AWS and start that server again. That IP will change, right? So I'm using this context now. That IP will change. But what if in the case you don't want that your IP to always change? You don't want it to change. You want a static IP. You want a static IP. That is what is called the elastic IP. You understand?
Okay.
So you tell AWS, give me, allocate IP to me, to this server. I want this IP. AWS will give you IP, and that IP is what will stick to your instance, to your server. For example, it will not change whether you stop the instance and come back tomorrow and start the instance again. It's not going to change like the public IP that will always change. Hope you get.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so now, how can we provision a server? Now, let's provision a server. We're going to provision a server. How do we do that? I can click on this guy here to provision my server, this launch instance. Take note of that. Wherever you see this launch instance, it's called provision server, right? So this drop down, you can decide to choose from its template, launch instance from a template. If you have a template you configured, like what is templates? Templates are like maybe a system that you've told AWS, okay, kindly configure a laptop that has 5 gig memory, right? And the CPU should be 2, right? Then the storage should be maybe 500 gig or 1 TB or SSDs and all that. Kindly configure that a resource and keep it for me. Anytime I want to provision a server, I'll just come to that template and click on it, and that's all. I'm not going to do anything, right? So that is what is called templates. AWS also have their own predefined templates as well. So we are not going to work with that. We'll launch our own template instance. We'll configure everything right from the beginning and say it launch instantly, right? So instance is called server. This thing called instance, that word instance is called server or a computer, right? Just understand it by that word. Launch instance, launch a server, right? Provision a server, right? So you can either click on this guy here, or you can just come to instances here, right? Come to instances here and click on launch instance. They are still the same thing. When you provision instance, you see all your instances here, both existed currently running instance or stop instance, right? You see them here. So let's click on launch instance. So when you click on launch instance, it will take you to this interface where you provision all your resources for that server. Now, the first thing first, right? You see this name and tag. This name and tag is where you name your server. You give it a brand name, known as what do you want to brand your server? What is the identifier you want to give your server? You can decide to give it a random name, right? If you want, right? But what is the best the best practice to follow? Is always name your server according to what you want to use that server for, right? It is always easy to identify that server, what it is for. Even if somebody else coming to this place can identify, okay, this is what this server is for, without asking you. So you can even see the example here, my web server, right? Identifiable, not just one random thing you can call your server. You can't call your server by your name. No, you can't call it by your name or call it with a street name. No, no. So I can decide to call this my server, like let me say my app server. I can decide to call it app server, right? Or call it front end, right? This is what I want to call it, right? So the next step is choosing operating system for your server. What operating system do you want to give your server? We have here Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat. See, guys, always know that you always choose your operating system based on what application or what code base your developers are using. You cannot choose Mac OS or Ubuntu when you know that your application is running on .NET. The code base is .NET. It's not efficient. It's not going to work. You have a lot of problems. Even if you end up, you're able to even deploy, you have a lot of dependencies issues. So what is the best OS to use? You use Windows, right? So always identify, work with your developers. That is why you're a cloud engineer. As maybe you become a cloud and DevOps engineer. That is where you're in the middle between your developers, and the operation teams. You need to know what operating system is best used for your code, your application that will best the efficiency for your application. So you cannot be using your application cannot be built on .NET, and you want to use Ubuntu to deploy your application. That is wrong. Use Windows. You understand? But if your application is on Python, for example, or React application, or just normal HTML and CSS application, right? If you are going with a server, this thing to deploy the application, let's go with Ubuntu, right? Or Amazon Linux. Amazon Linux is built on Red Hat, right? It's the same thing as CentOS. That you use the same. It has the same kernel, right? With Red Hat. Then Ubuntu is Debian, right? So, or Mac OS. So I don't know what you want to use Mac OS for. Maybe you want to have just normal this thing. I don't know what you want to use Mac OS for, but I haven't used it before. I've used only Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, right? So know your operating system use cases, right? So for the purpose of this session, I'm going to use Ubuntu. Yeah, right. I'm going to use Ubuntu. Then the next step. Then let me explain this part. You see, if by any chance, right, you want to click this browse mode, right? You still have things to choose. You can also always choose from here. This is the same thing as the quick start we saw from the other interface, right? This my this thing. I'll explain this one later. You see this marketplace. Always come to this marketplace when you know you have money, right? You know you have money. You can come to a marketplace because whatever you choose, if you choose any resource from here, let's say you went and you say, okay, you don't want to use anything from this quick start AWS gives you. You want to come and use Red Hat from here, or you want to come and use Microsoft Server from here, you will be charged. And you know what? AWS is not totally in charge of this marketplace. They have a third party. So you can see by Center for Internet Security, these are these vendors. They have vendors, so owners of this thing, these resources. Yeah. So those vendors will owe AWS. AWS will come and owe you when you come here to provision to use any resource from here. So, like I said, you can come here if you have the money, right? You know that whatever what you need is not inside here. Eh? You know that what you're looking for is not inside here, and you need more things. You can come here, and you know you have the money. then fine, you're good to go, right? So, but then keep to your free tier. If you know you do not have the money, you don't want to spend dollars, keep to your free tier. Come just pick anything here. I don't know what you'll be running at this stage that are not here. But you can run with this Ubuntu or Red Hat or Amazon Linux, right? Or Windows here. So stick to whatever is here. So this place here, this is operating system. This is the operating system versions. You know, I choose Ubuntu. When you choose Ubuntu, you see the different versions of Ubuntu here, right? You see Ubuntu 22, you see Ubuntu 20.04, you see different LTS, long, what's that LTS? What long transfer support or something like that, right? So long-term support, yeah, long-term support. So you can see you have only 2 free tier here. If you go and click any other version after these 2 free tier, also know that you're on your own. You have the money, right? You have the money. So server 22 is even the latest. The 22.04 is the latest. Just use that. There's no need of you changing anything, except maybe you want to use the 20.0, which is the previous this in before 2022. I mean 22.04. You can choose that. It's still free tier. Just these two. But then you can just, if you have no need to choose 20.04. Stick with the 22.04, right? So choose that. Once you choose that, then leave that side. Then you have your architecture 64 and 64 ARM and X 64 bits x86, right? Stick with this. This is within the 64 and 32 bits, right? So stick with that. Then this is where you have the CPU and the memory resource. This is CPU and memory resource. So you have, for this account, this free tier, you only have T2 micro, right, for your free tier. Do not go out of it. Do not go out of your free tier. Stick to it. Except okay, maybe later days when you become so expert, you know what you want to do. When you become so expert, you know what you want to do. That this free tier, this one CPU won't be enough to deploy whatever you want to deploy. Maybe for EKS, for example, Elastic Kubernetes won't be enough to run whatever you want to run. So you can choose more resource here. Check for the resource you want to use. Maybe 2 CPUs, 4 gig memory, or 2 CPUs, 8 gig, 16 gig, 32 gig. You understand? There are many here. So, but know that you'll be charged. You can see the pricing under them on demand. You can see $0.0116 per hour. You can see. So you need to be careful. So most of the time, you know that for now, you don't have any need to change this. Don't click on it. Maybe you just want to learn what is inside this list. You can just, zoom in. And when you're back, make sure you're seeing this free tier at the top, free tier eligible at the top before you proceed. You understand? Then here is to check all the generations for this particular Ubuntu and this thing. So we don't have any need for this part yet. So big skip here, which I've explained before, so I will explain again. This part is just how to create your key pairs. I told you what is key pair and what's the use case. You use key pairs to connect to your cloud server. You remote into the cloud server. Please, when this meeting ends, you can just join with the same link for the last time. So before the next meeting finish, I must have finished everything. So you use Keeper to connect to your cloud server, right? You remote into it, right? So how do you create a Keeper? So you click on create, right? So make sure you give your Keeper a name. So I'm going to name my Keeper based on what server I will be using this key pair for. What did I say I'll use my server is my front end. But you can always use this same key pair. You can always use the same key pair for other servers as well. You can always input this key pair use this same key pair for key pair, right? You can always use it for other servers as well. So this is the important part. These key pair types and the private formats. Always make sure you're on the RSE. Make sure you're on the RSE. So RSE is more secure than this ED, right? Stick with the RSE, and it has good support than this other one, right? So stick with the RSE, right? So what is this .pem and this .ppk? This is the important part. You need to also understand this format, right? So if you, regardless of your, okay, let me explain this. Most of you must have read of PuTTY and PuTTY and CLI, command line. So now, PuTTY, you can see under this the key this in .pem and .ppk, the description here. For use with OpenSSH means that this .pem, you can only use this .pem format if you want to use a command line to log in into to SSH, to remotely connect into your server. You want to use a command line or a PowerShell. But if you want to use PuTTY, right, make sure you select PPK. Make sure you select PPK. PuTTY is a remote connection tool, right? Use it for file sharing, for telnetting, and doing other network connection stuff, right? So let me go through that again. Use .pem if you want to use CLI, a command line, to connect to your servers, or use PPK when you know you want to use PuTTY, right? Or use PPK if you want to use PuTTY, right? So I don't know, you guys, when they gave you the assignments, the assignments for last week, most of you must have tried to use PuTTY, so without even understanding what the PuTTY is for, right? So this is it, right? So PPK for the use of PuTTY. For OpenAge, use PEM for command line like PowerShell, Git Bash, or normal Linux terminal, or macOS terminal, right? If you're for macOS user, right? So most of you are using Windows. For your Windows, you have PowerShell inside your Windows, right? You can use .pem. You can use .pem to SSH into your server, or use Git Bash, right? If you want to use this .pem, use Git Bash. But if you want to use, if you're using PuTTY, use this PPK. Come here and select PPK, right? If PuTTY you always use, right? Make sure you're selecting the PPK. So I hope you guys understand. Before I proceed, any question?
There's a message on the chat box that
Yeah.
So
I saw a YouTube video that says .pem is for macOS and .pc. No, this is misconception. No, macOS has terminal. That is why they are saying that I'm using Linux. I use Linux and Windows, right? Even in my Windows, there's PowerShell. I can use the .pem also to log in to SSH into my server. Doesn't have to be macOS terminal, right? So you understand. So why it does PPK is for putting, not because it is Windows. It's for PuTTY, remote connection to, right? So that Windows, you have PowerShell, or you can, if you want to have normal terminal, like normal terminal, you can use Git Bash. If maybe you're a developer, you always use Git Bash. You can use Git Bash as well to SSH into your server. So it's not because you're using Windows, you have to use .ppk. Do you understand?
I do. I don't know about the others.
Yeah, you said?
I said for me, I understand, but I don't know about the others.
Guys, any other person, you guys should say something. This place, you guys need to understand this parts.
So promise, let me ask. So there was this Win. Can you also use PPK to look in via WinSCP?
Huh?
There's one other connecting to, is it WinSCP, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Please come again. I didn't get you.
So there's one other connection too that I heard about, something WinSCP.
WinSCP.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what you use. They don't use that. It's not efficient. You understand? It's not efficient as the PuTTY or Git Bash or PowerShell.
All right.
You understand?
But that one now, which one can you go? Which private key format can you that one would accept? Is it .pem or .ppk?
For which one?
The Win
For the
SCP
Win,
that I'm...
it's .pem.
Okay.
So, any other question for anybody? So I think that WinSCP is for mostly old version of Windows, right? People don't use it. They don't use it anymore. People don't use it anymore. Can't even remember how the interface looks like anymore. That's long time, like a few years ago that I've used that to last. Okay, so I want to assume everybody understands this particular part of this session, right? So for me, yeah, I'm gonna use I will use PPK because I want to use PuTTY. I'm using Windows. I don't want to use PowerShell. I want to use PuTTY, right? So that you guys will see what I am doing. I also use Linux. I'm not using Linux tonight. So because of, I know many of you guys are using Windows, so I'll just stick with PPK. So I'll select that. So immediately I click on create key pair. It will download the key pair, right? It will download it. You can see here it has downloaded the key pair, right? It has downloaded the key pair, and you just leave it there. And so yeah, why I said you can always use this key you created for any other server. Yeah. When next time you're provisioning a server, if you come here to this drop down, you will also always see your keys, your previous keys that you've created. You will see them. You can select them. Once you know that you still have the keys on your system, on your local system, you can always select that key and use it, right? So that is that. So